Other people's definition of beauty might not be yours. Make who you are beautiful. Make that be the standard for beauty. Is yourself when you look in the mirror every morning. What you do with your body is important. Your body is sacred. Nobody deserves it at 13 through 16. Nobody deserves it but you.
Pulling up. Do they love you because they want to have sex with you? And do you think they're going to love you just because you give your body?
Yeah. This is a powerful source. When I think about lust, I think about attraction. I think about the physical. I think about just sort of like shallow affection. That's what I think, lust, shallow affection. I think about lust. I think about misperception around why you're engaged or attracted to someone. Think about lust. I think about the potential of being stifled in, your long-term purpose and goals and stuff. That's what I think about when I think about lust, those things. I think about love. I think about sacrifice both ways. Someone sacrificing something for you. I think about investment into your purpose, their purpose, and by purpose, something that is beyond, yourselves. When I think about love, I think about not necessarily something being perfect or without difficulty, but I do think there is a genuine desire to work through those difficulties. And there is a genuine effort in how to learn from, again, in service of a greater purpose. So that's why I think love is all about service and sacrifice. Love is beyond ourselves. Certainly there's scripture around love being patient, love being kind, love being beyond, boasting about ourselves. Love not keeping record of what someone doing wrong, and so obviously forgiveness. Love, yeah.
I married my high school sweetheart. I met him when I was 15 years old. Previously, I had one boyfriend before him. I met him at church. He was just very cute to me. And I just thought he was the cutest one. He sang in a group, and I just thought he was cute. And we met, and over a period of a year, we saw each other maybe 5 or 6 times. He would come visit my church, and then he eventually asked me out on a date. We went skating, a group date, and the rest is history.
Anaya, my oldest daughter, she came to me and she asked me, how does it feel to be in love? Because she sees her peers, they have boyfriends and they're doing their own thing. And first and foremost, I was happy that she felt comfortable even coming to me to say that. That made me feel so good. So I basically just told her to not focus on love. Love will happen naturally, and then you're young. So I'm not going to say that you're not going to love people or like people, but you should. I told her to just focus on herself right now. Find out who she is, what she likes, what she wants to do with herself, and love will come.
So for a teen girl that thinks that she's ready for sex, the first thing I would say is recognize how important it is. Recognize that it is something that can create life. It is something that you will have to live with for the rest of your life. It won't go away. You can't cover it up. is something that you will think about and remember. And that's really important. It is not something to be to be taken lightly. And also, I would say keep in mind the person that you're looking to have sex with. Try to understand what their perspective is on it. Are you guys really doing this because you're trying to be like everyone else? Are you doing it because you think you love each other, or your feelings have got to the point where you feel like you now need to take this act to express it even further? I would question all of that. So take the time to question it. Take the time to reflect on the decision, and make sure you realize it's not a easy decision. It's not a small decision, and that it is extremely important and could have some ramifications for the rest of your life.
Teen girls, like how they know that they're like experiencing like true love with somebody that's for them versus just want them for their body. That is kind of difficult in that I think when you're young, you know, you have a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings, you know, that you feel, and it's almost easy for a young girl or female to feel that any attention is, he loves me. Anything that, you know, any type of attention. I think because I watch my mother, and she may have had 1 to 2 relationships that I saw her in. And, you know, growing up, she didn't have men coming in and out of our house. And again, just watching her, I learned a lot. And I'm stubborn by nature, so that caused me to be able to watch for red flags. I think a lot of times young girls they're willing to ignore the red flags that they may see. They may think that because a boy is saying, telling you shouldn't wear that, or you can't wear that, he loves me. No, that's controlling. That's not positive attention. That's negative attention. And I think sometimes young girls confuse positive attention with negative attention. Again, when I started dating at a young age, my first date, my husband now, I had him come over to the house, meet my family. We went on a group date. I would say our first 5 dates were group dates. You know, and we enjoyed it. We had fun. There's nothing wrong with that because, you know, sometimes when you have people that are watching on the outside, they can see things that you cannot see. And then if you're in a group, you're less likely to engage in activity, which you shouldn't be engaging in at such a young age, and just can take you down a path that you are not physically or mentally prepared to go down.
Sex it's not everything, and the advice I would give is to abstain from it as long as possible, because sex takes a level of maturity, and it takes a level of emotional maturity and even physical maturity in terms of sex. And so I would say abstain from it. Even if you're hearing your friends talk about it, even if you're hearing your classmates talk about it, really check in with yourself and be like, well, do I really want to do it? And abstain as long as you can. I will also say don't feel as if you need to be validated by having sex, right? Like, don't feel like, I need to be doing this because I hear everyone else doing it. Because if I'm not, then I'm not worthy, and people are going to think that I'm lame. Like, who cares, right? Like, sex takes a level of emotional, physical maturity, right? Mental maturity, because information is powerful, right? When it comes to sex and everything that's involved within it, you have to really know what you're getting yourself into. And so the more that you can abstain from sex, I think the better it will be for you in the long run. So that's my piece of advice. Abstain as long as possible.
I think some parts maybe yes, some parts maybe no. So it was my first as well. So it was, I guess, a mutual type of thing. I would say that we both lied about it at the time. We both acted as if we had had some experience, but then later on down the line, we were able to admit that no, we didn't have much experience. So given that we had a very mutual, my experience was a mutual consenting situation, that's good. That's a good thing. given that it was that we actually really at the time thought we loved each other, that it was a very pleasant experience, that there were no second guessing it. There was no okay, I got what I wanted, now I can go on to the next thing. There was none of that. We thought we were in love, and we were sharing that relationship and the things that came from relationships. So I think a lot of that I would say was good. Things that I would say maybe I would have to reconsider perhaps would be the age. So I was around, I think, 19 when that happened. I still think that's kind of young. Still think there's a lot of maturing that needs to be done for something as important as sex. Honestly, sex is what allows us to create other human beings. So in that one act, we could have created another human being right there. So I think the maturity and the responsibility that comes with being able to do that is extremely heavy, and we shouldn't take that for granted.
If my daughter comes to me about sex, I would definitely be honest with her. Like, I would have that talk with her and let her know, don't do it because the guy wants to do it. If you want to do it because you want to do it. But I would really advise her to wait, but to use protection. And I would definitely put her on birth control.
Like now, like the age you are now, looking back, do you feel like you were in love when you were having sex as a teenager? Or did you feel like it was just lust? Like, I just want this attention, he likes me. And then did you know what soul ties were back then? And do you feel like you have soul ties now?
Well, when I was having sex as a teen, I felt like I was doing it because I felt like that's what he wanted me to do. So I felt like it was just lust, like he likes me, this is what you do when you like somebody, you have sex with them. So I was just doing, like, it wasn't really for me, it was for him. I do believe in soul ties. I believe I still have soul ties. And what I mean by soul ties is it's like this physical thing that you can't shake. It's like, the person is no good for you, or you've kind of moved on, but physically, like, you still think about them, it's just like a tie. It's like you can't shake them, you can't get them out your mind. It just pops up here and there. When you think you're over the situation, it pops back up into your mind or your dreams or anything.
That's good though, because of that, what you just now said, I do feel that way. I don't want to say I want her virginity story to be exactly like mine or like mine, but the positive part of mine was that it wasn't my choice. I didn't feel pressured. It's something that I felt like I was ready for. That is such a tough question, because as a parent, I want my girls to wait until they are married. I want them to wait until they're mentally and physically ready, because sexual intercourse brings on a lot, especially for a girl, for a female, because we are, it's easy for a boy or a man to just have sex with multiple partners and not even get attached or not care. It's different for a female. We get attached, and we feel like, we're in this for the long haul because I've given myself to you.
So I think that can't be true across the board. I think that boys are just as scared and just as available to be pressured by their peers or by society or any of the influences and environments that they're around. So it's not always, I think, truthful to think that all boys are after sex or after a certain thing as it relates to male-female relationships. I think that in most cases, I really believe that they don't know what to do. Either they haven't received much instruction or thoughts from their parents or others that they can respect on the topic. So they're either watching TV, reading books, or hearing their friends talk about it, or magazines, and hearing their friends talk about it, and that's what they're getting in terms of relationships and sex. And especially, I think, media, with social media. And, you know, most of the time when I go on social media, all I'm seeing is a lot of the things that sell, which is usually sex or sexual images. Those are the things that sell. So those things are very prevalent. So if more teens or children in general are getting that in terms of what they're taking in, then of course it's going to be something that they think about more. And I would say boys in general typically don't have the opportunity to communicate and share their feelings. You know, they're usually told to kind of hold that back than take the opportunity to share them. So, you know, they may be locked in a certain position, feeling that they have to be a certain way and act a certain way, even though deep down inside, that's not what they're feeling.
I think lust can be perceived or misperceived as love. Like, so I think you can lust after someone and think is love, just because affection and human nature and sex is real. Like, that's a real, like, the sexual drives are real and so cloudy. I think that is why there is benefit in not, you know, knocking boots prematurely or at all, right? So, like, I think it's a lot easier for you to think someone loves you or think you love someone if you've already had sex with them, because it's that much of a powerful force. Like, sex is an exchange, right? Like, I think that, you know, it is spiritual. It is like legit, like you're legit making withdrawal and deposit into someone when you have sex. That's some like heavy stuff. So I think that, like, that's why lust is tricky, in that it can feel a lot like love if you're prematurely engaging with someone sexually. Like, you won't really think you're in love. Like, that person when I was in high school messing with, Roman, like, I thought I loved him. You know, there were a lot of factors other than sex involved, but like, I thought I loved him, and that didn't help the fact that we were intimate, you know, and the fact that I had like all these other vulnerabilities. And that's another thing. Sex is hella vulnerable. Like in the physical, like a person is penetrating your body. It gets no more vulnerable than that. Like, what?
For her.
See, unfortunately, my virginity story was a rape. So I feel like
So was mine.
I didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a say. And I was that girl. Have you seen that show like on Netflix? Was it 13 Reasons Why?
Mm-hmm.
I was the girl that, I might have kissed somebody, but then it turned into, she a hoe. And she did all of this, that, and third. So I had literally, like, people knocking on my door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, boys knocking on my door. Like,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get to me. And one guy, like, you know, we dated and everything was fine. And then he came over one day, and I told him I wasn't ready, but he was.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't want anybody to go through what I went through. Because then, like I said, like when I was going to therapy and stuff like that, I was just, no, I'm okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, I did. Like, real monotone about it all, nonchalant, numb to it all. Because I still hadn't processed that it happened.
Right.
And then, like I said, I was mad at my mom and I was mad at God because she was at Bible study trying to save her life, which I now know.
Right.
That you were trying to save your own life while I was fighting for mine.
Would I want her virginity story to be like mine? So I would want it to be like mine in the sense that she was ready, that she was able to accept what was going to happen to her and what that meant moving forward.
Right.
And that it was her decision.
Right.
So I do want those same things for my daughter. How it happened, not necessarily, but yeah, I want it to be her choice and to be able to process those feelings, be mature enough to process those feelings.
Right.
Okay, so I was a teen mom. I had my daughter at 15 years of age. It was very, very hard because I was still a child myself. Like, I didn't know how to take care of a baby. But I feel like for women, it's kind of like second nature. Like, it just kicks in, like what you're supposed to do for your child. You know, I knew she was supposed to eat. I was supposed to soothe her when she was crying. Like, I knew those things, but I really, like, mentally, I didn't know, like, how to be a mom. So it was very, 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 very hard. It was very challenging finishing school, being up with her all night from the crying and have to get up and go to school. and then not being able to hang with my friends. I would have to go home and be a mom. And then eventually I started like a little side job because I was too young to get a real job to take care of her. And it was like, it felt like my childhood was like snatched away. Like I didn't even really have a chance to be a child. So the advice I would give anybody that's in that situation is to just not give up, to, you know, be there for your child, to focus on your child. Like I understand it may seem like you don't have time to be a teenager, but you know, when you make a decision, you just have to, it's nothing else you can do but just be a mom, be strong, stay focused, and just love that child, and just try to teach that child from your mistakes, and teach your child to be better than what you were. Not saying that you're a bad person because you had a child at a young age, but teach them things so that they'll think twice before they just lay down with the guy and have his baby.
With girls, there's a lot that comes along with that, and it's dangerous. It's a dangerous game to play because you may feel that this person, because you gave yourself to this person is committed to you. And when you're young, especially boys, they don't even have the capacity to think outside of just wanting to have sex with you. A male, their brains don't even finish developing until they're 28 years old. I mean, 25, I'm sorry. 28 for men, 25 for females. So they're only thinking about one thing, to be honest with you. So most of the time when they say things like, oh, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful, I love you, it's actually that they just want to have sex with you, which is unfortunate and a lot. I know it's hard to believe, and you really think, oh, they love me for me. No, they love you for what they can get from you. And my husband tells me all the time, you know, boys don't even have the capacity to think past just having sex with a girl when they're young. That's just how they're created.
All the chemicals and emotions that come from going through sex, and you know, everything that comes with it. Yes, men and women react differently to it, but men also have a period of time when they're also very emotional, and the intimacy is very near and dear to them. Right, and usually that's right after orgasm. That's what men go through. So I don't think they look at it. I don't think it's that all guys look at it that way. I think what it is really just a covering over of emotions and feelings that are really there, but they act as if they're not there. I would never trust a man, in general, I wouldn't trust men who act emotionless about things like that. There's probably deep-rooted emotion there that they're just hiding and covering. Now, that's one thing I would say men are very good at, are hiding their emotions. That's something that boys have been taught for years and years, so they've gotten better and better at it as they've been going through and maturing through their lives, as they've gotten older. So when you meet a man, he's in his 30s or 40s, he's probably, in some cases, went through a good 40 years of covering emotions. That's a lot.
Right.
So I would say I would be careful of it, because I don't think it's all true.
Campbell.
There we go.
Yep.
There we go.
I love how she broke it down. Yep.
Yes, they are. They impact you in so many ways. You find yourself, you could be just living life. Everything could be all good, and all of a sudden you're stuck in a moment in time, and there's no other way to explain it, and other than being connected with somebody, because sex is spiritual. It's spiritual, and it's very emotional. And I think we have the tendency to microwave it, for layman's terms. Yeah, we microwave it. We do it because it feels good, but we can't process what comes with that. And I always say I can't have sex without some kind of emotions attached to it. Whether I'm oh, this feels good for the moment, or I like him for the moment, or he's making me feel safe for the moment, and I like that. Right. But there's some emotion attached to it, and I have to be honest. So
emotional it is for us as women versus somebody 16, 15.
You don't even really when I was 16, I wasn't having when I was 16, so I can't even imagine I'm grown now, and sex will have me up to like yin yang. Like what? Like will have me like creating expectations that ain't real. Sex will have me like compromising my value system. Sex will have me like thinking that someone who is supposed to be temporary in my life is not temporary. Like now I got all kinds of like draws and connections and soul ties with them. And this is Brittany at 30, right? And then like even the health implications, like sex can also have you contracting some venereal disease that you had no expectation of contracting. You know what I mean? Like there are like long-term implications that way, right? Especially not protecting yourself, just we're being practical. And so that's like the reality at 30, when at least my brain is now getting more developed. I have experiences at 16, 15, 17, heck, 18. Sex will have, from my experience, at least that's 18, right? Will have you making all kinds of decisions, right? That have long-term implications, that can have long-term implications, right? It have you making mistakes that you actually didn't have to make. That's what it is. Like, so even though, even though I went through these passages, a lot of them were unnecessary. Like, let's just be real. So even though I can like say how I learned from, a lot of them were unnecessary. I feel like, why do we do that? Don't do that. Don't make unnecessary mistakes just because other people you have observed got through them and turned out well. Don't do that, because in as much as God extends grace to us, we also unintentionally just nick ourselves. And then you have to do extra work to come back from it. Work that you probably wouldn't even have to do. Like sometimes that work is to have like physical, because you know you're going into depression and now you're not eating the right things. Sometimes work is spiritual, because now you got these soul ties and somebody else's spirit connected to you. Sometimes it's mental, because now you're doubting yourself because, hey, I had sex with this man. That's not enough. He still don't want to be with me. And now you're trying to figure out like these are nicks that you will now have to heal from, when you could just be free in the first place. Like, why not? Like in the grand scheme of things, I can identify specific times where like I didn't have to nick myself to get here. Like I would still be as fly and, you know, bomb and successful and mindful had I not done things that I wasn't supposed to do. I didn't have to go through those things to get here. I probably complicated things more than I should have. I probably have extended the timeline of things that I would like this is hard to be. Like, you know what I mean? Like real talk. Like there are probably things that had I took a different course, God would feel I was a little bit more ready for it now, because I don't have to heal from. But I'm still trying to course correct, right? Based on the decisions that I've made. So free will is a real thing, right? Right. So we have to exercise it mindfully, especially with sex, especially.
Dad, when y'all was he a teenager too?
Mm-hmm. No, he wasn't really active. Like we would go over there during the day, but he wasn't really active. I was the one doing everything, right, and taking care of her financially and my family, of course.
Because essentially he's a teenager too.
Mm-hmm.
So like looking back now, being an adult, so then you can be like, okay, well, we were children.
Right.
Like,
we really were. So I did want to go to college. My mom, she offered to keep my baby while I went away to a 4-year college, which I didn't feel comfortable doing, leaving her. So I did go to community college, but eventually, you know, I had to take care of her financially, so I stopped doing that and I worked full time. But you know, if I didn't have a baby at a young age, I felt like I would have went to a 4-year college and I would have just focused on me. And I also felt like that messed with like my self-worth. Like I felt like I was a failure. I felt like, you know, what am I doing having a baby at such a young age? And I let other people's judgment like change the perspective of what I thought about myself. So, you know, that's some more advice I would give. Like, don't listen to what anybody has to say. You know, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes decisions that they may not be happy about. But a child is a blessing, and you just make the best out of it.
Everybody that I've been with, there was some kind of connection there for me, regardless of how much, you know, I said there wasn't. I be front.
Right.
But
we be fronting.
Yes, all the time. time we friend because we like, I got this.
I start liking him.
Yes. Like, oh my God,
Right.
I love him.
And we're saying this as grown women.
As grown women, that's why I don't understand young ladies, you know. If you like sex, now some women, you get it how you live and you like it, and I commend you. Hats off to you.
Right.
I just know that's not for me at all. Because I be out here looking stupid.
Right, we're grown women.
We're grown women.
And it's hard to process the emotions that come with sex.
It is.
So as a teenage girl, a child essentially, I don't think that we're emotionally ready. I'll say that. I mean, but.
Ever emotionally ready.
Mm-hmm.
Each time is a new experience with somebody different.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'll ever be emotionally ready or prepared for what comes with that.
Right.
Like, yes, I work through it in my own way,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's being in denial or like, you know, just going through it and feeling those experiences, but it's still like a shock every time.
Right. Knows what to do with your body at that age. Nobody. No matter how good they make it seem, no matter what song you listen to at that time that makes it seem like it's all fine and dandy, it's not worth it. Just wait. Hold off. I promise. Be the one that holds off. Be the one that holds off. I promise it'll work out in the long run.